Hamas. Paul Rykov joins us in studio right now. Paul's the founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. He's national security, political analyst, and all the rest. We have a lot of topics that we had planned to talk to you about today, but let's start with the obvious here. We've been waiting for some news on any of these hostages. It appears, we don't have 100% confirmation yet, but it appears as if these two women are free. Your reaction?
It's good news.
Yeah.
And I think the world and America and Israel need some good news after the last couple of weeks. So I think it's encouraging. I think we also have to understand the rest of the hostages have to be released as well. The Americans and the Israelis, over 200 have been held. You know, it's been said a lot, Connell, that this is like Israel's 9/11.
Yeah.
I was in New York on 9/11, just a couple miles from here, and we saw the carnage and the heartbreak and the horror of losing civilians. In many ways, this is worse. You know, we didn't see children at ground zero. There weren't hostages involved. So in many ways, the stakes are so much higher because it's ongoing. So we need a unified effort. We need a continued focus on all the hostages that are yet to be released.
Do you read into anything of the timing of all of this with the Israeli ground offensive reportedly getting closer and closer? We've seen the troops and the tanks and everybody amassing on the northern border of Gaza. And now today the word comes out that these two hostages, according to Hamas, are being set free. What do you read into the timing?
You know, I think there's been some good strategy and coordination internationally now, and it looks like the forces are working together. You got to give the Israelis some credit. When you're hurt like this and you have the rage, you want to punch back immediately. The hard part is being strategic, taking your time, being patient, minimizing civilian casualties, and obviously coordinating with American forces. The president gave a speech last night. We've now got American military assets arranged in the region. So I think we should be encouraged by the restraint so far that will hopefully ensure that more hostages are released and civilian casualties are minimized before what looks like an inevitable ground offensive.
It does look inevitable, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's been building for some time. What about the delay in all of that, the fact that it hasn't happened yet? What would you say about that and what Israel may be thinking?
As a military officer,
yeah.
I mean, it's battlefield patience. They're being smart. They're setting the battlefield. They're giving the civilians time to leave. They're also framing this up internationally for the rest of the world to win hearts and minds, which is going to be the hard part of this if this goes on for months and months. They're calling up reserve forces, over 300,000. They're getting their pieces in place for what will be a very, very tough, brutal urban combat, the likes of which we haven't seen. We've seen terrible combat in Ukraine, but this is going to be even more complex, even more dense, and even more fortified.
Just the fact that they've waited this long and that they've carried out as many airstrikes and maybe gathered intelligence with special ops and the rest, does that give them some sort of an advantage as tough as the urban combat will be?
It gives them an advantage because they know when they go, right? They decide when they're going to go, and they don't want to let, the old saying is don't let the enemy control the tempo. So right now, if you're a Hamas fighter in Gaza, you're waiting for the punch to come, and that gives Israel time to arrange air assets to get more allies in place, which I think is going to be critical. And most importantly, I think for the world to let civilians get out of the way. There are so many women and children that are in the middle of this. The more we can get out of the way, the better that'll be for everybody.
We can't get any aid into them. The president even talked about it today in his comments at the White House, saying that in the next 24 to 48 hours, he's hoping that Rafah crossing will open up for these trucks to come through. I've seen some reports that Israel maybe was worried about the fact that those trucks weren't being checked properly for weapons and everything else. What do you make of the holdup there? Because you know, those civilians in Gaza have nothing to do with what's going on, who are obviously suffering.
I think that's a reasonable concern. I mean, we know Hamas has a stranglehold on the area, and Israel wants to get aid in, but they also want to make sure it's not manipulated by Hamas forces. They want to make sure it's protected and it actually gets to the people who need it. And I think important to remember, we've got American troops in the region, too. So our Pentagon is working overtime right now. We've got troops in Israel. We've got troops in Syria. We actually had troops wounded in Iraq. This is a story many folks didn't see.
Well, we had it right when the president was about to speak. I mean, literally, right as he was coming on the air last night from the Oval Office.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing for Americans to remember. This isn't just other people's sons and daughters. This is American sons and daughters in uniform that are in harm's way right now. We've also inevitably got intelligence assets in Israel and probably in Gaza that are operating. And they're American sons and daughters, brave American heroes that are involved in this at a very deep level.
And more hostages, more American hostages.
Absolutely.
So the news here today is, again, if you're just joining us, we believe 2 American hostages. 2 people, by the way, on this program we've talked a lot about because their rabbis joined us on 2 occasions. Natalie and Judith Renan, they're from Evanston, Illinois. Their rabbi's name is Rabbi Meir Hecht, and he's been on with us a couple of times, you know, as you heard from him a minute ago, just praying and hoping for their release. I believe they'd gone over there. They were going to a birthday party, somebody's birthday party, and the daughter was only just graduated from high school. They go over for the party, and they're abducted by Hamas. We don't know their condition yet. We don't even know for sure, where they are, how they've been released. We just know the rabbi said, yeah, it's them. That's the group. These are the people Hamas is talking about. But it's not the only people being held. So how does that come into the consideration as Israel considers this ground offensive, the rest of the hostages?
It's the highest stakes possible. I mean, it's really the toughest military mission you could ask for, is to try to go in and take out a target and protect civilians along the way. And they don't know where the hostages are. So an important element is there's a lot of intelligence gathering right now.
Is it prioritized in that way? I mean, I hate to say it, but I know some of the families feel this way. And I understand why they would be upset by this, but they say, well, we don't feel like the first priority. We think the first priority is a military priority to eliminate Hamas. Is that fair, what some of the families have been saying?
It should be the priority. Right. I think that has to be better communicated, and has to be communicated by President Biden as well, that we want the Americans protected. That's a very delicate thing to try to actually execute. And the intelligence assets right now are working overtime. Everything from tapping cell phones to the satellite elements to human intelligence on the ground, that's being gathered so that every strike will hopefully take into account where those hostages are. And we're going to hear from the hostages, I hope. They're obviously going through a terribly traumatic experience, but they're going to give us an insight to what's happening to the other hostages who still remain.
Well, that's a good point. We can bring up some of the maps of the region that we have. We could talk about some of the strategic military part of this as well with Paul. But you bring up a good point that Hamas, in releasing, if this is all true and confirmed with these hostages, does potentially give away some intelligence, right? They give away some intelligence about where the other hostages might be.
Right. Where are they? How are they being treated? What are they asking them? What are they doing with them? And the fact that they were released at all. I mean, I think that is a good sign that there's a potential to release more, and that should be the priority, especially for America right now.
They know Americans that, though. Out. I mean, Hamas knows that, yet they still did it.
They do.
What do you think their goal is in doing this? Trying to stall things?
They're trying to win the hearts and minds of the world as well. They're trying to make their case on a national stage. They're trying to claim that they're freedom fighters and that they're the good guys in their eyes, which the world is pushing back on. But I think showing more empathy by Hamas is going to try to push some people. I don't think it's going to work, because we've seen the carnage and the horror of what they've done. But this is going to be a very long war around the world that could last for years. Right. And a lot of it is going to be communication and marketing their cause.
Well, the perception is much different. You've been over there. You know this area much different today, say, in Ramallah than it is in, obviously, Jerusalem, but even here in New York or in the Western world in particular. I mean, there were some, the protests earlier the day there looked like they were taking a turn. I mean, things are right on the edge. So
and the support for Israel in the U.S. is stronger than in other European countries, right? So Israel has got to solidify that support. The U.S. has got to solidify that support. We've got to pull in our other NATO players, and we can't take our eye off the ball in Ukraine either. I think the president appropriately framed up a two-front war. And it's not just about supporting Israel and supporting Ukraine. It's also about defeating Hamas and defeating Putin, which is something that is a strategic priority for the United States, for our military, and for the world.
Want any of that money, we need a Speaker of the House, which is another...
That will help, too. That's where we got to take care of our business back home. And our enemies are celebrating that kind of division. That's one thing we can do here, is get that straightened out.
Right, which doesn't look like it's any closer to being straightened out. Paul, thank you very much. It was good to have you in, and at least maybe, well, we'll see how it turns out, but at least maybe have a little bit of news here to make people smile on a Friday, that these two women who have been through so much are hopefully, they're at least alive, and from we understand they're free of Hamas, hopefully. So
that's right. That is worth celebrating. Yeah, and it took a lot of work to get them out, too. We've got to take into account that we still got to get them home, and the folks that did that deserve some praise as well.
Thanks again, Paul.